bit tricky. Okay, now everyone can hear me better. So there are some questions here we prepared. I'll start with those, and then we can open it up to the floor. Maybe I'll start with one of the questions here. Dear Mokpo, how can we use the Dhamma to overcome anxiety?
Anxiety? Well, really, every aspect of the Dhamma teachings and Dhamma practice is contributing to this problem of anxiety and helping us to overcome it. Probably the Dhamma term that refers to anxiety most closely is one is called uddhacca kukucca. When you talk about meditation, practicing meditation, particularly samatha meditation, to develop states of calm, stillness, mindfulness, the fourth of the 5 hindrances to that is uddhacca kukucca, which means restlessness, anxiety. So particularly about anxiety over things we've already done, and maybe you regret or feel bad about perhaps, or anxiety about things that haven't happened yet, things you haven't done but you feel you need to do, or things you're worried about may arise in the future. So it can relate back to the past or the future, and it's literally the mind is agitated, restless. So it's the opposite of stillness, the opposite of samadhi, and the opposite of happiness and contentment. Because when you're content, you feel peaceful, still, you feel full. So Ajahn Chah would use the word for contentment and of samadhi, he'd use the word pawjai or im-jai in Thai, which im is the same word you use when you're full from eating a meal. You know, maybe you're eating a meal at someone's house and they say, have you eaten enough yet? And you say, yeah, enough, I'm full. And you say im or paw lao or im lao. But this is fullness of mind now. It's not the body as in physical food. Now we're talking about fullness of mind, but the effect is the same. When you manage to abandon anxiety, you feel good, content, still, happy in the present moment. So how do we become restless? Well, as I said, one big cause of our restlessness and anxiety is the things we've done that we regret, the things that we've done that agitated the mind, and we can remember them and they're still having their knock-on effect or resultant effect over time. So particularly in terms of precepts, if you've broken a precept, you weren't keeping a precept, such as if you were killed, even some small insects or something, you intentionally harmed somebody or something, or you intentionally stole, or intentionally committed an act you might call sexual misconduct, or you told a lie, or abused someone, or you got drunk. These are actions that don't just have an effect in the immediate moment that you do them, but also there's a resultant effect, is that you don't feel good about what you've done. Sometimes we break the precepts and it's so small, the intention is so weak, so small, it's very passing, we may not feel much about it, and maybe your mind is fairly coarse. You're not reflecting on your behavior, you're not noticing things, because you're so caught up with your emotions and desires. But if you add these small moments together, they can bring up a lot of anxiety, restlessness based on its past actions that were not very wholesome, not conducive to peace. So even now, you might be able to remember things you said or did a year ago or 5 years ago. When you think about them, you don't feel comfortable, very at ease yet, because they agitate the mind. Just the memory agitates the mind. Or it could also be someone else has picked up or remembered something you've done, and they see you and they accuse you or blame you. They come along, and that will agitate our mind. We become anxious about what other people think, what other people say. So a lot of anxiety to do with the past is over the unskillful things we've done that we remember, and we don't feel comfortable remembering them. We don't feel happy in ourselves. We feel embarrassed, ashamed, not good. Another more subtle kind of anxiety to do with the past is things that we should have done or could have done, good things we should have done or could have done, but we didn't. I should have used my time better. I should have helped that person more. I should have done more meditation. I should have been kinder in that situation. I should have shown more kindness, more tolerance, and so on. It's good that we could have done, but we didn't. And then we remember later, and it makes the mind restless. Oh, I should have done more. So that's more to do with the past, and then the future is, again, maybe a thought that you want to break a precept. You want to steal something. You want to kill that animal, annoyed. You haven't done it yet, but you're just thinking of it, planning it, thinking of it. This will agitate your mind, make you very agitated. So if normally you say you keep the 5 precepts, and we just undertook the 5 precepts, but then you're one day in a situation where you're tempted to steal. Maybe someone else comes along and says, hey, we can make a quick ringgit here, a quick dollar, and do something not very legal or cheat someone or something, because we feel no one will know about it. They say, well, no one will know, you can get some easy money. Before you do that act, you'll probably have anxiety. But what if I get caught? What if I get found out? How will I feel after? Oh, I'm going to feel so guilty about what I've done. So you haven't done it yet, but you're already anxious about what you might be going to do and then what the results will be. Sometimes it's situations where, you go, say, people sometimes they come to me and they say, I want to give up alcohol, I want to keep the precepts, and I want to give up drinking. But if I go to this event, maybe you have staff party or some function to do with your work, or some social function to do with your family or some group, I know they'll be drinking there, and they'll all want me to drink, and they'll all keep thrusting glasses of beer or wine in front of me. What do I do? And you're already having anxiety about what may happen. All these different situations from the past, or potential things from the future, bring up anxiety. Anxiety about things we've got to do that we feel we should do and we haven't done yet. Maybe there's someone you have to look after in your life, an aging parent or relative. Maybe you're thinking, I really should look after them. This is my duty, I'm their son or daughter. Nothing's happened yet, but you're just thinking about it, worrying about it. Or could even be applying to yourself, or you've got some health issue, I've got to look after this, what am I going to do? I've got to go to hospital, I've got to take time off, I've got to sort this out, oh dear, 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 dear. So you would say it's a good thing to look after your health, but the anxiety around it is not a good thing, because it's stressful, agitates you. So I'm just giving you examples of anxiety, how they come up, and what they do to the mind. They stress you out, they agitate you, they're the opposite of happiness, contentment, stillness. If you go back to the food analogy, well, just as when you're free from anxiety, you feel full, content, like you've eaten a good meal. When you have anxiety, you feel empty, you feel restless, and you feel empty inside. You feel something's missing because you're not content. You feel something's wrong. You feel something is not right, something is missing, or you might say you feel mentally hungry because you're not peaceful. So anxiety has its causes, and when it's there, it's not pleasant. It can have its mental effect, it stirs your mind up, makes you think endlessly. Anxiety tends to be kind of like endless thinking. And even physical effects can affect you, can't they? Anxiety can make you not sleep at night, gives you a headache, give you stomach upset, make you tense in your body, all kinds of things. So anxiety, if you consider it, you contemplate anxiety, you get to know quite quickly it's not a good thing. I don't want this, it's not for me. But you can't just drop it just like that. You have to work at it to drop anxiety, to let go of it, go beyond. Because it's very I wouldn't say attractive, but it's a quality of mind that really pulls you in, doesn't it? It becomes very habitual very quickly. You become anxious and you think certain thoughts and then you think them again and you get in the habit of always being worried, always being anxious. And then often it doesn't actually need much to set you off. You know, it could be associated with a place or a person, and just meeting the person, the anxiety comes up. Going to the place, anxiety comes up. Thinking of that issue, the anxiety comes up. And it becomes very habitual. So how can you deal with that? Well, the simple kind of aim is to bring up more awareness, more mindfulness, to see what's going on, to know what's going on in your mind. So that's where wisdom comes from. Wisdom and understanding, which will finally help you overcome anxiety, comes from being aware, paying attention, getting to know your mind, getting to know your state of mind. You have to pay attention. Just like anything else in life, if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. You won't understand what's happening and why. Maybe a common thing we might say is, I'm anxious because I'm an anxious person. As though that's the end of the story. I'm an anxious person. End of story, nothing more. You accept your anxiety, you get caught into your anxiety, and there's nothing much you can do about it. But if you can establish some awareness, some mindfulness, you can say, okay, I have this anxiety comes up, you notice it, but you don't have to follow it. You try more and more to establish mindfulness and just know anxiety is present maybe. And as you watch and observe, you may get to know what that anxiety is about. As I was saying, something in the past, something coming up in the future. But you get to know it, where it's coming from, and you can watch it, observe it, when you're mindful, when you're paying attention. What you notice is when you're, say, particularly when you're meditating, but not always when you're meditating, other times, you have anxiety and maybe you recognize that, you acknowledge, oh, I'm back with this anxiety. What's the first thing you want is to get rid of it. But that wanting to get rid of it, or the desire to get rid of your anxiety, becomes another form of anxiety or aversion. It becomes another form of stress. I've got to get rid of this because the anxiety is bad. Maybe you go to the doctor first, they give you some pills, and you're suffering from anxiety, and you go, oh, I know, it's terrible. So every time after that you notice your anxiety, you go, I've got to get rid of this. The doctor said it's a bad thing, it's a problem, I've got to get rid of my anxiety. So already you're creating more suffering straight away. And you have suffering building on suffering. You have the anxiety and then what you think about the anxiety, and it's like layer upon layer of suffering. And when we're stressed and anxious, often it feels like this. You're just trapped in this kind of cycle of thinking and worrying. So anything that brings you mindfulness, brings your mind back to the present moment, helps you to observe, but without trying to get rid of the anxiety. Just noticing it. That's the first goal, it's just to know, oh, now I have anxiety. Just watch it. And what you'll find probably is you can't let go of it yet. But getting angry and upset by it because you've got anxiety, it will only make it worse, so don't do that either. Just watch. And what can you learn about it? And one thing you'll learn very quickly is anxiety is really just a series of mental states joined together usually. Certain kinds of emotions, you're agitated, restless, thinking a lot. And it seems to be a very strong, kind of powerful emotion that keeps going. We could say it almost like has its own life, its own energy. But you start watching it. Maybe you introduce the question, I'm going to watch this until it finishes, until it passes. When will it pass? How long will it last? You just introduce this idea that you're watching anxiety. So now the anxiety, instead of being you, I am anxious and I don't like it, you're now starting to treat it more like as a symptom of the mind in a more impersonal way. And you keep introducing the mindfulness and the questioning, and you're saying, well, there is anxiety there, but how long is it going to last? And you watch, and it may take 20 minutes before your mind changes and moves away, thinking about something a bit happier or a bit better maybe. It will take time. But your job is to keep following along, watching. And particularly in meditation you'll learn this. Keep following along, watching. And at some point, after 1 minute, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long, your mind will change. What you're thinking about will change. Because any thought, any mental state is we say it's an object of mind. And as you become mindful and start questioning this way, you're treating it correctly now. You say, oh, there's this object, it's like this, anxiety, feels like this, looks like this, fills up my mind in this way. But how long does it last? And sooner or later you'll get to the point where you're mindful at the moment when it fades, it changes. Why can I say that? Well, at this very moment, hopefully you're not feeling very anxious. I may be wrong, because I don't know all of you, but you're probably not anxious. You're feeling fairly normal. Maybe your legs hurt a bit sitting. Maybe you're tired after a day's work, I don't know. But you're probably feeling fairly normal, not anxious. Which just shows you, if you've had anxiety before, where is it now? It's gone. It's temporary. So what is temporary is not something that just exists all the time. It's not really a person or a being. It's not me or you, us or them. You can see clearly at this moment when you're anxiety free, it's just a mental state, a temporary mental state that may have arisen in the past many times. But if it's not here now in your mind, it's clearly gone, it's clearly, we say, anicca, temporary. What is temporary is not a self because it's temporary. We're not saying there's nothing there, not saying you've never had anxiety, we're just saying it's not a permanent state of mind and it's not a person. It's more like something that comes in and out of your mind, in and out of your experience. So the first time you notice that, you might have a revelation, a realization, oh wow, I never knew I could be mindful when my anxiety passes. That should give you a new perspective on it. Of course, doing that once may not be a very profound experience yet, it's not very special yet. If you do that a few times, especially if you meditate, when you start noticing periods when you're anxious and it comes up, you go, oh, here we go again. You'll get into the habit of saying, how long is this going to last? And you follow it for however many minutes and then it's gone. And your aim is to be mindful when it passes, when it changes. And then you really see it as something impersonal that arises, passes away, but it's not you. You don't have to cling on to it anymore. You don't have to identify anymore as self. You just notice it as a mood, as a mental state. Really, you can do that with many other states of mind, anger, desire, greed, sleepiness, all kinds of these hindrances. You can start to depersonalize this way the mind keeps attaching to them, grasping hold of them, wanting them to be, wanting to get rid of them, or wanting to hold on. Like if you have a very pleasurable mind state, that can also be a great distraction. You like to fantasize about, the person of your dreams, or the car of your dreams, or the computer of your dreams, or whatever your dreams are full of. You like to fantasize. When you meditate, that also fills your mind, doesn't it? Oh dear, fills my mind up. How do I get rid of this? How do I end this? You watch with mindfulness and it will pass. Because that's the nature of all mental states, sankharas. They arise, they pass away. That's what they do. It's just most of the time we don't get it, we don't see it. They come up in our mind and straight away we believe them. We become anxious, we become angry. And because we're not very mindful, for a while we're just believing in that mind state. So it seems very real, very powerful. And the more that happens, the easier we fall into that habit. But in the same way, the more you practice mindfulness, the more you look at your mind, observe your mind, the less you fall into those habits, the less you believe them and get caught up in them, the more you can have a sense of separation. So we call it, the separation between the object and the one who knows the object. So the one who knows is mindfulness and wisdom. These two qualities working together. With the one that is known, in this case, is anxiety. And you may get so good at it that you have anxiety arise and straight away you go, anxiety. I'm going to watch and see how long this lasts. And maybe very quickly it disappears because you're mindful and observing. You get more confident and more understanding then. Just as an aside, you may find that if you practice, particularly if you practice meditation, you might find that you learn what is conducive to letting go of anxiety quickly or easily. So another cause of anxiety is, spending too much time with the anxiety, thinking and worrying and holding on to those thoughts. So another part of the practice is getting into the habit of directing your mind to things that are more positive, more fulfilling, more bringing a sense of well-being, peace, stillness. And that takes practice, but it's something you can do. The obvious one might be metta, the object of metta, goodwill. If you get in the habit of using metta regularly as a meditation, you're developing both the feeling, the thought, may I be well, may others be well, the feeling of goodwill for yourself and then to others. You do it regularly, already you're kind of trimming down or cutting down the amount of anxiety you have. Because as you feel more goodwill, you feel happier, anxiety and stress will fade. So developing positive qualities of mind will also work for helping you to let go of anxiety. So maybe that's enough on that question, something to think about.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajahn. I'd like to open it up to the floor. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. Pass the microphone. Any questions? Yes.
Don't be shy, feel free.
Thank you for the explanation. Still follow up on what you mentioned in terms of separating the object as anxiety from mindfulness. Could you maybe explain a little bit and discuss How do we do that?
Practice. Practice mindfulness regularly, and you'll get more and more used to watching your own mind with the awareness that is neutral, equanimous, detached. As I said, at first you have all kinds of what we call hindrances coming up in your mind, and we get annoyed with them because we don't want anything. Everyone sits there saying, I just want my mind to be peaceful, empty, and it never is at first. So you have to be very patient with your own mind, and you have to put effort into developing mindfulness. So you need an object to do that, and this is why we talk about samatha and vipassana meditation. So samatha, there are many different samatha objects. The breath is probably the most universal, but loving kindness is another. Focusing attention on the body or a part of the body is another. Many of these meditation objects, the aim is to develop strong, continuous mindfulness. So if you're using the breath, for example, you keep coming back to the breath over and over again, and you'll notice, sometimes your anxiety is very strong. I can't stay with the breath. You keep worrying about that issue. So you have to keep working at it. Be patient. Sometimes you just sit there, and that's why I was saying you can't yet let go of your anxiety, but you can follow it, observe it as it's there, coming up in your mind, and you just kind of set a trap or a little question there. You say, how long are you going to last, this anxious state of mind? But you have to be mindful enough to say that question, bring the question up. So you sit there, you're trying to watch the breath, you can't be with the breath, you're just anxious about this problem in your life coming up. But you notice what's going on. So you say, today a lot of anxiety, can't be with the breath. How long will this anxiety last? I'm going to watch, I'm going to sit here, so you have to be committed, you have to be patient, and you have to say, I'm just going to sit here and watch and see how long this anxiety sits in my mind. Maybe already that will make the anxiety kind of a little bit weak at the knees, because it's like trying to take over your mind, a bit like a bad guy. But now you've got this other quality of mind, mindfulness and effort, coming up saying, okay, see how long you can do it then. And you kind of embolden yourself, you bring up faith, it also makes you a bit braver, more confident. Patience, effort, all the good qualities you start bringing up, but you know you can't yet get rid of the anxiety. So you say, I'm just going to watch. Okay, you do your thing. Think those thoughts. And you let it do its thing, but you're watching. I know it sounds kind of contradictory or unlikely you can do this, but to me that's what you're doing. You can't quite stop it coming up into your mind yet, but you can keep introducing mindfulness, and you watch, and you'll find after a while your mood changes. And most people find if they sit meditation for 30 minutes or 1 hour, they have periods where they're peaceful, and then periods when they're very anxious and thinking a lot, and periods when they're sleepy, and then back to peaceful again. In a period of 1 hour, you might go through a whole range of emotions and different mental states coming and going. And you get used to watching that dynamic. And so however strong the anxiety is coming up, you're really worried about something, okay, but watch it. How long will it last? Eventually it will stop. Eventually it will pass. And if you can stay with it long enough, that at the moment it passes, you're still there. And you go, it's gone. 10 minutes ago I was full of anxiety about this problem, but now it's gone. That's insight into impermanence, into not self. And it depends how well you do it, but sometimes you might do it well enough that at that moment you see, anxiety is to be let go of. It's not to be clung to. And that will stay with you. That's a bit of wisdom that will stay with you for next time. So your mind becomes a little braver, a little wiser, and you might find you can improve your meditation by learning in this way. But you need the patience to be able to stick with, say you have a lot of anxiety bothering you and you can't let go of it, you have to be patient to work through it.
So while reading your book, there were mentions about tigers.
Yeah.
Should we watch the anxiety, like kind of like a
Yeah.
useless tiger?
That's a very good example for a monk. I mean, lay people, you don't usually have to encounter tigers, but you have to encounter difficult people in your life sometimes, or difficult situations, a bit like tigers. But for me, the very first time I stayed in a forest that was inhabited by tigers, elephants, bears, big snakes, I didn't sleep a wink all night, whole night. Couldn't. Lie down, mind is running with anxiety. So I had to investigate. Why am I so anxious? Why am I so worried? What's the problem here? What's the cause? What's happening? How can I deal with this better? How can I let go of this? How can I go beyond it? All those questions. And I kept reflecting, I'm anxious because I'm worried that if a tiger comes, it could threaten me, it could hurt me, it could kill me. Where's that coming from? Well, attachment to this mind and body as self. Saying this body here is me and I don't want anyone messing with it, and tigers are going to mess with me if they come, so I don't want tiger. And you're projecting all of this into the future, because the first night I was in the forest with tigers, I never saw a tiger. What was the bad thing was, and this is another part of it, what made me worse was before I went to where I was going to stay in the forest, I was with the park ranger, because this is in a national park in Thailand that has tigers. And he spent about half an hour scaring me and some other monks with his tiger stories. Don't do that. If you want to have a peaceful night, don't go to a national park and hear tiger stories. Because it only make you think worse, be more anxious. Many things in life are like that. Things set us off. There'll be people who make our anxiety worse because they keep telling us how bad things can be and the worst, the negative kind of people. Or nowadays everyone has a lot of anxiety because the news is so negative and so worrisome. They can't stop watching the news, listening to the news, reading the news, and of course they feel a bit anxious about the world. But for me it was tiger stories. So there's me sitting in the forest. Oh, what if the tiger comes? The tiger came last time, and the park ranger was telling us how only the year before there had been this very wild tiger that was a bit sick, a bit old, so struggling to catch deer and other wild animals, so it started looking to eat humans. And it had attacked or tried to attack a park ranger. He managed to get away, but then they had a stakeout, and the park rangers are sitting there with their guns at night because they have to protect their own family, because they had a few families living in the national park. And the tiger came, and as soon as the park ranger was fell asleep, the tiger swiped him and caused 100 stitches down his back. So that's a true story. He told us. Luckily, the guy who was swiped by the tiger and clawed by the tiger didn't die. He had to go to hospital. He had a lot of stitches, but he didn't die. Then a few days later, after that, the tiger came back, and the park ranger, his wife, has a little baby, a young kid, maybe 2 or 3, and they just live in a little wooden shack in the middle of the park next to a river, and they'd have to wash their clothes in the river because they really didn't have any facilities. So she's washing her clothes in a river, and the tiger comes, the same tiger, and they know it's trying to attack people, so she sees a tiger, she panics, she runs back into the house, says, tiger, 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 tiger. And the husband grabs his gun and he says, where's the baby? And she says, the baby's upstairs, because it's a 2-story hut. So the man shuts the doors and windows, and they're under siege now. The tiger is trying to get in, bashing at the window, bashing at the door. In the end, it's trying to get through the door. Its claws are coming through the door. So it shoots it through the door. It kills it. You can actually go and see that tiger today in the museum in the national park. They've still got the stuffed body. It's pretty big, quite long. From that wall to that wall, it's long, big. Yeah. If you met that, you think, oh, I surrender. So that was my introduction to tigers and staying in forest with tigers. He told me that story. And then I go off and sit in the dark on my own. Like, just think all night long, what if the tiger comes, what if the tiger comes? But, I mean, you know the story probably if you've read the biography. About 10 o'clock that night, I'm sitting there, I can't sleep, so I'm just meditating, no choice, nothing else to do, because I'm anxious, and I can't let go of the anxiety, but I'm watching it, trying to bring up the mindfulness, watch it, learn about my attachment to my own body, my fear of what if, and then there was the noise on the dry leaves of the forest. And I was sitting there, no light, it's in total dark. And like, uh-oh. Because it sounded like a big animal slowly walking towards me, one step at a time. And when it got really close, I knew this area where I was staying, there was a lot of animals because there were footprints everywhere and scats or dung from different animals. So I thought, well, it must be something, perhaps I better show him I'm here just to sort of let him know in case that helps. So I had more anxiety, should I turn my torch on or not? Should I or shouldn't I? Yes or no? Do I or do not? You'll get anxious about everything. Once you're in anxiety mode, you'll get anxious about every little thing. But in the end I decided, yes, I'll shine my torch, because the sound was getting so close. I shined my torch, ready for the worst. And there's a little mouse jumping on the leaves slowly towards me, because he was scared. He was anxious too, but he didn't practice vipassana, so he's just carefully moving towards me, hoping he might find something to eat, I think. So I shine my torch, it's a mouse, and it's like, oh, silly me. I just spent the last half an hour proliferating with anxiety about the possibility of being eaten by a tiger. And this tiger is actually a mouse. I mean, it's a big mouse, maybe you call it a rat, I don't know. But it was not very big, not very dangerous. And as soon as I shine the torch, the little mouse goes, ee, and runs away. It's the opposite of the movie where the person sees the mouse and the person jumps on the table and goes, ee. The little mouse went, ee, and ran away. Anyway, then I contemplated how silly I was for falling for the sound of a mouse, imagining a tiger. But for me that was a really big insight, because I could see the fear of the tiger is all in my mind. It was just a little mouse, and actually there was no tiger, and that night I didn't meet a tiger. So I just contemplated how anxiety spins your mind, creates a story, images, all kinds of things. So I wasn't yet ready to give up all that fear and anxiety, but I certainly got a good insight into it, and then I used that later on subsequent nights over and over again until I had my breakthrough. My breakthrough was I became still, peaceful. It's not on the first night, it's later. I became still, peaceful in samadhi. Then I had another problem, because once I had broken my anxiety and let that go, I could sleep. So then I had problems with sleepiness. Because once you've got rid of your anxiety, it's easy to sleep, isn't it? So that becomes your next problem. So training your mind tends to be a bit like this. The 5 hindrances are like 5 bad guys. Like in the Chinese movie, you dealt with this guy and then you've got to deal with this guy over here. You get rid of one, you've got another one to deal with. So you get rid of your anxiety, then you feel good, still, peaceful, happy. you can go to sleep. So you fall asleep and then it's hard to get up and meditate. So that's another story, another question maybe. But that's how it goes. You work with the defilement, the hindrance over and over again, many times, until somehow you can abandon it. And you may not abandon it all at once, but that's practice. You keep at it. You learn to sit, meditate regularly, walk meditation regularly, and you have to train your mind, your heart like this, through practice, through effort. There's no way around it, and that's our biggest problem is, we don't want to make much effort. We're tired, we go to work, we have family duties, we have all our other parts of our life which pull our energy. So when we come to meditate, it's like, oh, I'm so tired, can't meditate. That's where we have to start bringing up the effort.
Right. Thank you, Ajahn. The next question is quite an interesting one. I've heard that other Ajahns and lay teachers talk about Thai devas, Burmese devas, and even German devas. Is it true that these celestial beings have race and all nationalities?
Yeah, well, Deva realm is very multicultural now. It actually always has been. It's just now we talk a lot about it and we define it and describe it. But you think it's just the same as people, isn't it? People fly all over the world now. So in Penang at this moment there must be 100 different nationalities easily. Even in my monastery in Australia there's quite regularly maybe 6 or 7 different nationalities. So for humans to move around the world, interact through work, social things, through Dhamma, through every aspect of life, it's very normal. Devas are the same. There's no limit here. It's not Devas are Buddhist or Buddhism has a monopoly on Devas. There are Buddhist Devas, yes, but Deva realm is a realm of the mind, or based on a realm of the mind, and it's open to everyone. Man, woman, Malaysian, Thai, Australian, English, American, whoever. Anyone can become a Deva. Where the Devas come from, human beings, when they die, become Devas if they have the right qualities. So what are the qualities that Buddha said that make you a Deva? Hiriotapa, shame, fear of wrongdoing, making merit. And how do you measure where a Deva is reborn, where a person is reborn as a Deva? Well, it's on the amount of merit they've made, the brightness of their mind, which depends on their merit, the amount of good they've done on the level of dana, sila, bhavana. So the Deva Loka, Deva realms, Deva world is not limited to any nationality. But there may be connections between those Devas who were previously people. They may be connected to physical places. Many are not connected to a physical place, but many are. So there may be what we say Malaysian Devas or Thai Devas. And then they may be connected to their religion, so you may have Christian Devas or Buddhist Devas or Hindu Devas or non-religious Devas as well. Just people who've done good but have no religious belief can still become a Deva. So we have to broaden our approach here. It's just like the human realm is full of people of different nationalities, ethnic groups and so on. Deva realm is the same. Whether other religions or other teachings accept that or can explain that as well as the Buddha, I don't know, but the Buddha explained it very well. And one thing with Deva realms is there is a hierarchy of the Deva realms. So we have these names, Chatu Maharajika, the lower realm, up to Dusita, then Paranimita, Vasavati, and then Brahmaloka, Brahma realms, for those who attain jhana. So there's reasons why people will go to different heaven realms based on the amount of good karma, the amount of merit they've made. That's something to think about, isn't it? Making merit helps you get to a heavenly rebirth. That's not our goal. Our goal is Nibbana. But it's something to be aware of, isn't it? And on the way to Nibbana, you make good karma. It's part of your practice. And you can't help but make good karma if you're following the Buddhist path. So if you're really following the Buddhist path, even if you haven't reached Nibbana yet, there's a good chance you might die and be reborn as a Deva. It may not be your aspiration, you may aspire to Nibbana, but it will happen if you're practicing making good karma, making merit. Trouble is, with Devas, unless they're noble ones, and there are noble ones in the Deva realm as well, Devas still have defilements, because they come from people like us. So if you die and you've still got greed, anger, delusion, jealousy, rage, that will go with you into your Deva birth. You'll probably have it all under control because you've learnt to practice good and keep precepts and not hurt other people, okay. But you get up into the Deva realm, you still have senses, you still can see other Devas. And you hear a lot of stories about one Deva sees another Deva, oh, they're so much brighter than me. Their heavenly mansion is so much bigger than mine. That's just like humans, isn't it? You know, you go down the street, oh, that guy built the big house. Oh, that guy bought the new Mercedes-Benz. Oh, it's got the latest model. Oh, that lady, she's got the most expensive handbag in the place. I'm joking here, but it's that dynamic where you're competing, comparing. Devas will do it too, because they still have a sense of self. So don't be fooled thinking that's the end of your troubles if you become a Deva. It's only like a rest from your troubles, because you've still got attachment to self. And you'll come back maybe as a human one day, and you'll still have to deal with this.
Thank you, Ajahn. The next question I have here is, Ajahn, I can see why doing Dhamma and keeping the precepts are meritorious. Both of these acts benefit other beings directly. However, it's still somewhat unclear to me as to why meditation is considered meritorious. I've even heard that it generates more merit than Dana or Sila. Could you please explain why it is meritorious to meditate?
That sounds like a disappointed meditator speaking. Most people find meditation hard, especially in the beginning, and so we like to find a few scapegoats to blame, and we have doubts. Why do they say so much merit from meditation? I don't think it's true. I think I'd rather do my dana, make my food, offer to the temple, than do my meditation perhaps. We often are looking for excuses why our mind is not peaceful yet, why our meditation is hard work. But the Buddha has to speak from a place of understanding and knowledge. It's the Buddha. We call the Buddha Sapanyu, it's all-knowing. So the Buddha knows karma and the fruits of karma, merit, demerit, good and evil, unwholesome, wholesome. He knows all these things very well, and he describes them and teaches them very well. So, forgotten what the question was. Just say the question again.
The question was, why is it meritorious to meditate?
Yeah. The Buddha knows the hierarchy of merit. So, even though it might be hard to hear sometimes, he has to say it as it is. And that training the mind in these qualities that you can refine and develop best through the practice of meditation will help change you for the better, improve you as a human being. But it doesn't mean to say the dana and the sila and the listening to Dhamma and the chanting and all these other things are not helping. They are. Another thing you have to do is broaden your approach, broaden your perspective, in the sense the qualities you're developing when you sit meditation or you walk meditation are not exclusive to meditation, sitting and walking meditation. You can develop, as we know, mindfulness in daily life. You can develop compassion in any situation. You can develop wisdom and insight at any time, not just when you're doing formal meditation. You can develop patience and effort and kindness and hiriotapa at any time, in any activity. And indeed we should. So maybe you have to broaden your perspective and see that the qualities you're developing in formal meditation when you sit, you're actually also developing at other times. It's just you're not sitting down with your legs crossed, your eyes closed. You offer dana, you should also be watching your state of mind as you offer. Be mindful as you offer the dana. Are you offering with a lot of self, ego? I'm just doing this to do it better than them. A lot of people compete with their dana, don't they, if they're honest. Or I'm offering this dana so I can get some reward, something back. These are not the way the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught us to let go as we offer dana. Let go of the desires, let go of the conceit, the ego, let go of the negative qualities, because your aim is to free your mind from suffering. So whether you're offering dana, chanting, meditating, hearing Dhamma, sitting here now, all of this is part of our practice, developing the same qualities that you do when you meditate. It's just that at the moment you're just sitting in a more relaxed way and I'm talking, you're listening. But you're developing exactly the same qualities, and it's quite possible when you're doing a more ordinary activity, if you understand how to practice, you can develop samadhi as you're listening to a talk, as you're walking along the road, as you're chanting, as you're doing what you might call normal experiences. You can do that. So I think one thing is to see that the qualities that you develop in meditation, you're actually developing all the time anyway, in other areas. But to see that when we say bhavana or meditation, mental cultivation is the highest merit, because that's what you really, it's like the pinnacle, the culmination of your practice, where you get to the point where your mindfulness is continuous all the time. Your insight is continuous. You're seeing the Dhamma, knowing the Dhamma, so seeing impermanence all the time. So then actually what you find is that if you can meditate, doesn't matter what you're doing. Once you have these qualities established, to get there you needed to meditate. But once they're established in your mind, they're there all the time. You wake up in the morning, your mind is already meditating. Even if you're not sitting cross-legged, your mind is in the meditative state. The mindfulness is there, the effort is there. The mind is in a wholesome state. Wisdom and insight is there. There's an interesting story Ajahn Chah talked about when he was a young monk, and maybe had some of these same issues. He had doubts about meditation, and it was hard, and there were some difficulties for him. And he was living with a teacher called Lumpo Ginari, who was a very quiet, peaceful monk. And Lumpo Ginari was older. He had meditated for many years, so he was a master. He's considered to be enlightened. He walked all the way to India and back from Thailand, barefoot. That took years, many years, and must have gone through incredible hardship. So he had great determination. He was a very simple monk, very quiet, very self-contained, which is one side of Ajahn Chah people often don't know about. Ajahn Chah had that side to him. He could be very quiet, still, peaceful. But Ajahn Chah was a young monk. He was very active because he was learning to sew robes and chanting and meditating and doing many things because he was young. And he'd look at his teacher, Lumpo Ginari, and say, Lumpo Ginari, he starts walking meditation on his walking path. He walks 3 steps and then he stops. And he goes off and starts sewing a robe or sweeping some leaves. Or he sits down to meditate and he meditates for a minute, then he gets up and does something else. He always seems to be changing and moving around. I never see him meditate very much. Ajahn Chah was just thinking this. Lumpo Ginari called him over one day and said, if someone's learned to control their mind, it doesn't matter whether they walk meditation for an hour or 2 hours or just for 1 minute. Their mind is peaceful, mindful, the insight is there. And the reason Ajahn Chah respected him for that comment is because Ajahn Chah hadn't said a word. He knew exactly what he was thinking, and he realised, there's me saying my teacher never meditates. And my teacher is reading my mind as I think it. And you can only read someone's mind if you've mastered your own mind. You have very well developed jhana, psychic powers. So it's like that. The qualities of meditation, yes, they're the highest merit to develop because they really change your mind, improve your mind. Give up your greed, your anger, your delusion, of course. That's got to be the highest merit. But once you develop them, you don't actually have to be sitting in meditation to have that purity of mind, that insight. It'll be there all the time. That's how we define a noble one. A noble one is not someone who says, oh, I better go and do my meditation, otherwise I won't get enlightened. They are there already. They already know what they have to do to look after their mind in all situations. They don't have a rest day. Rest day for noble ones. Oh, today I'm just going to think all my angry thoughts just for a day. They're not like that anymore. They're completely abandoned, or they're on the road to abandoning it. It's just automatic for them. For us, it's all about effort. And so we find meditation hard work. Training the mind is hard work. So we complain, we get tired. We do our retreat, but then after the retreat we want to go and have a nice dinner and eat up and enjoy ourselves again. We have to accept that we're not yet noble ones, so you have a bit of up and down in your practice.
Okay, thank you, Ajahn. Are there any more questions from the floor? Yes. Okay, so you pass the mic.
What would you? Recently, I have a very close friend that passed away. We grew up together, we party together, we ride bikes together, and his death was a shock to me. He was 60 years old, but a year younger than me. So I've been having this anxious thought of death regularly. And the more foremost thought that came to me was, if that death happened to me, will I be ready? Am I ready? And what can I do to be ready when it comes?
I would say that's a really good, wise thought to have. It's not a pleasant thought, obviously, to think about your own death, but like you say, your friend has accompanied you through life, and so it's natural if they die, you're going to start thinking, well, it's going to be me soon. When you get to the later part of your life, people you know die, and every death is a reminder that one day I will die. You don't know how old you'll be, when it will be, so yes, use your time that you have left to do good, because you really don't know how long you've got. You know for sure you will die not that long from now. It could still be many years, I know, but you're getting to the end of your life, so use your time while you have it to do good things. You've done enough bike riding and partying. And your friend is no longer here to enjoy it, so you can leave that behind. Do more Dhamma activities, more voluntary work, more dana, more meditation, more listening to Dhamma, more good things in that area, to make more merit for yourself, to help other people around you, to be a good example to other people, and just for yourself, to use your time while you have it. And so, although you have the regret or the anxiety, oh, my friend is gone, when am I going to die? What will help you deal with that is using your time well to do good things, helpful things, kind things. Because if you're feeling you're using your time well, it won't matter how long you've got. You won't regret, oh, I should have done more. Because you're doing what you want to do, what you think is a good thing to do. And just keep going now. As long as you've got eyes, you can see things, you can hear things, you can think, you can still drive your car, you've got mobility. Use it to do more good. It's very easy, as you get older, to think about just sitting still, slouch back into the comfy chair, not do very much. You have to maybe try not to fall into that way of thinking. Sure, you might need to rest more because your body is not as strong as when it was younger. But try to keep active in doing good. You might have to think about it, what can you do? What things can you still do? And listen to the Dhamma, that will really help. Whether it's live Dhamma like this, or reading books, or YouTube, or podcasts, whatever. Listening to the Dhamma stimulates us in a very good way. It reminds us of how to practice, reminds us why we should practice. Really your question is saying, why should I practice the Dhamma? Because if you have anxiety about death, it means you're still not quite sure how to use your life. So once you know why you're here and why you should use your life, how you should use your time, the anxiety of death disappears. Really there's nothing else to do other than practice the Dhamma. And there's a lot of ways to practice the Dhamma, a lot of good things you can do. There's a variety, so it's not like there's only one thing you can do. You can do many different things. But I would focus on this now, because you're at that time in your life. And you can do it partly for your friend as well. Your friend is gone, okay, but I am going to remember him, honour his memory by doing more good. You can do volunteer work, or help somebody, or go on a meditation retreat, or pilgrimage, or something, and you can dedicate it to your friend or anyone who's passed away. And you just practice until you drop. You don't know when you'll drop, but you just practice until you drop, to the last breath.
Does anyone else? Any more questions?
Bob, can you guide us regarding Maranasati? Since just now the asked because as I was told, Maranasati can also lead to Samadhi. I mean, it may not be in the sutta. I heard it is from the commentary, Visuddhimagga.
Yeah, I mean, you probably could expand the words of the Buddha in Pali to get a basis for Maranasati from the suttas, but the most obvious explanations of it are the commentaries, like you say. But it is for those who find it conducive in their characters, it can be a very good introduction to meditation, because one of the biggest obstacles to meditation, to a peaceful, concentrated mind, is this endless planning and wanting to do things and get things and have things and meet people and do this and do that. You're always planning and scheming and fantasizing. When you introduce the theme of death, it's like, it just cuts it dead. So we were talking about anxiety earlier. Ajahn Chah used to say, if you have a lot of anxiety and nothing else works, just bring up the thought of death. What if I was to die today? Because a lot of anxiety is based around this sort of endless worry about the future. And if you say, well, if I was to die today, then it really doesn't matter. All those things I was worrying about don't matter anymore. If you really bring it up. But the thing with death meditation is you have to be very sincere. So I'm really going to introduce this idea of death, the concept of death. So for some people, they have to kind of gently approach it. Some people find it very scary or just unpleasant. So they may have to approach it a bit gently. Maybe just do it at first in a more discursive way. And that, I mean, just think about it. The fact that I will die, I don't know when, but I will die for sure. When I die, what does that mean? It means I have to separate from everyone I love and like. It means all the things the wealth I've accumulated, I will separate from. You don't take anything with you. All the people I love, I will separate from. This will happen for sure. Maybe some people I know will die before me. Maybe I will die before some of the people I know. But it will happen for sure. And you just think it through first. That's a good introduction, just what it means. And the idea is not to make yourself depressed, it's to bring up some real sense of reality of human existence. We don't last forever. And what that will mean. And already people find just thinking in this way cuts through so much mental proliferation, sometimes anguish. Maybe you're angry with someone and you think, I could die tomorrow, or they could die today, and we'd be dying angry together, or what's the point? And so it cuts through that, if you're just thinking it through. Or there's some ambition, unfulfilled ambition, you go, oh, I'm so unhappy, I didn't get my promotion, or I haven't made my first million, or I didn't get the girl, or I didn't get the boy. There's something you want, you haven't got, and it's really bothering you. Oh, but if I died, it really doesn't matter, does it? It can help with greed, with anger, with worry, with all kinds of things, even sleepiness. Why can I say that? Well, one time there was a monk that was always falling asleep, and his friends were concerned about him. They went to Ajahn Chah and they said, Ajahn Chah, this monk is always falling asleep in his meditation. He doesn't seem to have very good meditation. What can we do? Ajahn Chah said, oh, when he's meditating in his hut in the forest, go and grab a cobra and throw it in there with him. If you've got a cobra next to you, you don't fall asleep. Why? Because you're afraid of death. So a fear of death can even wake you up. That's what it does to your mind. It wakes you up to reality, to the truth. So at first you think it through, but the idea to develop samadhi, or one-pointedness, is reduce it down maybe to one idea, one word, or one phrase, or some symbol, something that symbolizes death to you, and you just keep repeating that or focusing on that. So it could be death, the word death, 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 or maranang in Pali. There's different phrases like maranang me niyatang from the chant, or maranang bhavisati. It can have a Pali phrase if that helps, and you just recite the one word or the one phrase over and over again. And your mind is distracted, wanders away, you bring it back. It goes away, you bring it back, until your mind is one-pointed or in samadhi. Then maybe later you develop anapanasati or another meditation or vipassana. But you can use this as an initial meditation object. And monks I know have done that. Some of them get very good results, and it makes them very in the present moment, unafraid, not anxious, because they do it sincerely. And that's the key thing. Because often, as I said, people, they don't like the thought of death, so they sort of say, oh, I'm going to contemplate death, but they're not really putting their mind on it because they don't like it. So that's what you have to discuss with yourself first. So if you do contemplate death, well, do it in a place where you feel comfortable, relaxed, there's no danger, but then bring up the thought in your mind and really go into it. Monks, it's a bit tougher. Maybe the teacher sends you to the graveyard. So if you're a young monk, you go to the graveyard. And you go there. If it's a Western monk in the graveyard, you're probably not bothered too much about fear of ghosts. It'll be more like fear of mosquitoes or just the hardships of the place. But if you're a Malaysian monk, a Thai monk, you're sitting there going, ghosts, 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 ghosts. And all those horror movies you've seen come up. Oh. Even Ajahn Chah had to go through that. He had a lot of fear of ghosts he had to work through. But the fear of death and ghosts really wakes you up, and it makes your mind go very firm, very mindful.
Thank you, Ajahn. Any more questions on the floor?
One question I'm actually confused about the terminology, the mind and heart in the Buddhist context. Sometimes they use it interchangeably, but then from the heart, one's book is straight from the heart. So do you clarify your heart, or do you clarify your mind, or is there the heart is something different from the mind? Please explain. Thank you.
Well, I think practical terms, for easy understanding, it refers to the same thing, this quality of knowing we have as human beings. We know things. And I don't mean it's a physical thing, knowing with your body or your brain. It's knowing with something else. You could call that something else the mind, or the heart, or even nowadays the mind-heart, to cover all angles. But it means the quality of knowing. Some people call it awareness, some people call it knowing. So partly the words are an issue, partly in Thai there's a thing, they have these two words, jit and jai. So jit comes from jitta, which is often translated as consciousness, or another word, but means the mind. Jai is sometimes translated as heart. Partly it's also a practical thing in the sense, most teachers agree that the connection between body and mind, the physical part of our person and the mental part, is around here, the solar plexus, or near to the physical heart. The other thing is, with language, we often use heart to talk about emotion. Someone with a lot of heart, generous, kind. Someone with no heart, cold, cruel. Heart has an emotional sense. So when you meditate, you notice your emotions tend to start from here. Spread out. If you're very angry, it spreads out from here. Fear, lust, from here. So this physical part or location is where mind and body tend to meet. Not so much in the brain, which is how we often perceive it. We think I'm kind of in my mind, my thoughts are in my brain. But actually the more you meditate, the more you become aware of the center of your awareness being the solar plexus. So then you see why some people like to use the word heart. You're purifying the heart, we say. Meaning this mental quality of knowing, which knows wrongly because it's under the influence of defilements, greed, anger and delusion. We have to purify this quality of knowing from greed, anger and delusion. And what we can learn about mind or heart, if you use that term, is that it arises and ceases, arises and ceases. Even though it seems continuous, it's actually individual moments of consciousness, arising and ceasing. As you train, you become more aware of that. And you'll see, well, that's how defilements get you. When the conditions are right, anger pops up, and then we grasp hold of that with a sense of self, and we become angry, and that conditions more moments of anger. Same with greed, same with lust, same with fear, etc. We keep conditioning more and more moments. So our heart is never purified. We keep suffering, we keep falling into these states that arise from ignorance, delusion. But as you practice vipassana, you develop the mindfulness, the insight, you're kind of cleaning it out. You catch the greed, no, this is not self, let this go. The anger, let this go. This is the cause of suffering, it's not self, let it go. It's just delusion. To the point, hopefully, one day, no more delusion, no more greed, no more anger, no more fear, no more anxiety, nothing. Mind is still, pure. Nibbana. So, I think in practical terms, heart and mind you can use interchangeably. There's a few other aspects to this, but I won't go into them now. But that's enough to sort of work on for now, I think.
My question is about craving. One of the three types of craving is actually craving for non-existence. Actually, we practitioners, we basically want to go is Nibbana, want to exit the cycle of reincarnation, exit samsara. So we actually don't want to exist. So here we are craving for non-existence. So how do you elaborate on that?
Well, you have to see that craving for non-existence will not get you what you want. It'll get you more existence. It's a delusion, isn't it? Because you think I don't want any more existence, I just want everything to finish, end. Well, that's a desire. You're not seeing it as a desire, as a conditioned state of mind coming from delusion. So if you follow it, it will actually bring you more existence, more suffering, because it's aversion really. So it may be coming up in the sense there's something you're experiencing right now. It could be pain. You say, I don't want this. So you may commit suicide or euthanize yourself. Or someone else is causing you pain, so you kill them. You don't want them anymore. I don't want this. Kill them. That's an extreme kind of craving for non-existence and what it does to you. As a mental state, it can lead to great depression maybe. You just want everything to end, you don't care, don't want anything. You kind of turn on yourself. But there's many levels of craving for non-existence. It can also be very subtly attached to someone who's got jhana. They can attain jhana, but they have this craving for non-existence. And it's actually one kind of jhana where you focus on the ending of all mental activity, but it's not part of the Buddhist path that leads to the end of suffering, the end of craving. It leads to rebirth in a realm they call Asanya Sata Brahma, where everything shuts down for an eon or however long they're in that realm. Because they develop samadhi, concentration, but it's for the ending of all mental activity. Not ending through insight, seeing everything as impermanent, suffering, not self, not to be clung to. But ending as in just stopping, finishing. It's a kind of attachment. And it's very difficult for a teacher to get their student, if that's what they're attaching to, out of that. Probably only the Buddha can teach someone not to do that. The teacher, because the person has a conceit, they say, oh, I can attain jhana. Oh, very good. You can sit in jhana all day long. And in their jhana, everything is stopped, including the apparent craving for non-existence seems to have gone. So they are deluded, thinking this is it, this is the highest happiness, this is what I want. They're not seeing there's a hidden craving there, so they practice attaining jhana and everything goes quiet. In Thai they call it the jhana of the mother chicken sitting on her egg, and they just go quiet. You ever seen a mother chicken, like wild chickens in the forest? They can sit on an egg through thick and thin for many days. The wild animals come, the weather rages, things happen, but they just sit there because they love their chick. They'll sit there on their egg. This is the Asanya Sata Brahmin. He can just sit there for eons and eons. Buddhas come and go. He misses the Buddha because he's just sitting there on his samadhi. Because he thinks he's attained Nibbana, he thinks this is the highest. It's a close down of the mind, of mental activity.
The two previous teachers.
No, not quite, but that's another aspect, that's another thing. But similar in some ways, yes. But it's only one kind of craving for non-existence. The more common one is just aversion in daily life. Things happen and we don't want it. I don't like it. I don't want this. So it could be something very simple, like you have pain in your body. I don't want this. But if it manifests stronger and stronger, more and more often, more intense, well, it can lead to self-harm or harming others. Or it can lead to a very extreme wrong view, in the most extreme sense. Maybe the desire, just when you die, the belief, when you die, everything ends, finish. What you might call nihilist, that kind of view. But in daily life, it's more just aversion to different experiences.
Thank you, Ajahn. Any more questions? Right, I'll do one of the pre-submitted ones. Dear Long Pong, what if my parents do not approve of my choice of partner, but I feel that it's because they do not know my partner well enough? How can I convince my parents to keep an open mind?
One way you have to prove it through just sticking with your partner through thick and thin, being loyal to your partner's loyal to you until you win your parents over. You convince them through your living your life together successfully, peacefully, in a good way, and until your parents just have no more doubts. They say, well, when they're together, they've done good things, what can we say? They accept it. But really, well, it depends on the situation, of course. There's many different situations, but you might say this is really the parents' problem, because they're not happy with the choice of partner of their offspring. And in this day and age, if someone chooses a partner, who can stop them? You know, legally, you can't stop them. Even socially, we don't really do that anymore. In more Western societies, they don't do that anymore. So it's really the parents to consider. You might get your parents to hear some Dhamma. If your parents are being narrow-minded or don't understand something, maybe get them to listen to Dhamma, talk to wise people, get the Dhamma input, that may help them. But as I said, you've also got your part, you've got to prove to your parents, if you're sure this partner of yours is a good person, they're good for you, you love each other, you're going to have to convince through you living together. If it all fails, then become a monk.
Thank you, Ajahn. That leads on nicely with the next question. I'm considering temporary ordination. May I know what are the factors I should consider before making my decision? Apart from my parents not approving of my partner.
Same person. Oh, you are in it. What preparation for temporary ordination was it?
That's correct, yes. What factors should I consider before making my decision for the temporary ordination?
Well, if you don't have any, because it's a temporary ordination, if you don't have any urgent commitments, just do it as soon as you can. That would be my suggestion, because when you have that thought, it's a very pure, very good thought, and sometimes it will fade and you change your mind. So I would say nurture the thought, get ready, make your plan. As I said, assuming you don't have any urgent commitments. You know, if you're having to look after someone who's very sick, could be a parent, or there's some big problem at work, you know, you run a business and you can't leave the business. You know, if there's some very difficult obstacle, okay, you may have to make a long-term plan. If there's no major obstacle, set your dates and move towards those dates. And practice meditation daily, keep at least 5 precepts every day, but ideally when you have a free day, keep the 8 precepts. So once a week or once a month or something, listen to the Dhamma, get in the habit of listening to the Dhamma, go to the temple or the monastery regularly if you can, make offerings, spend time with the monks. All of this will prepare you and give you the right inputs. And of course you tell your parents, your family what you want to do, but because it's temporary, hopefully they should be sympathetic, because you're saying, well, I'm coming back. If you have people who depend on you, kids, wife, husband, parents, then you have to make sure they're going to be okay while you're away, so they're not a worry while you're in the robes. So you make sure they've got enough money, their situation is okay, so that may be part of the preparation. And then do it. Strike while the iron is hot. Because you may lose your chance, things change. We get ill, problems arise, we change our mind. So if you think about it, do it. That's my suggestion.
Thank you, Ajahn. Are there any more questions? Maybe we'll do one last one. This is a long question, but I think most of it is just for context. Ajahn, in Majjhima Nikaya 144, Venerable Sariputta and Mahachunda visit Venerable Chanda, who is in great pain. he's contemplating using the knife. The two other venerables try to dissuade him from doing so. A conversation happens between them, in which it appears that Venerable Chanda has fully grasped anatta, anicca, and dukkha. Once Venerable Sariputta and Mahachunta leave, Venerable Chanda takes his life. Venerable Sariputta then goes to the Buddha and inquires about Venerable Chanda's rebirth, to which the Buddha says that Venerable Chanda is blameless in using the knife. In other words, Venerable Chanda had already attained arahantship. What does this all mean? Killing oneself surely is breaking the first precepts, is it not? Are arahants free to break precepts?
Well, I wasn't there, so I can't speak with absolute authority. There is always that possibility that what we've inherited isn't entirely accurate. There's that possibility, so be open to that. But like you say, the Buddha, if we take everything as the words say, the Buddha said he was blameless. He had not a single unwholesome thought left in his mind. He was just probably saying, there's no point staying on, I am enlightened, I've practiced, I've freed my mind, liberated my mind from the defilements. I'm very ill, I can't help anyone else. There's not much else to do here, so I don't want to be a burden, so he takes the knife, kills himself. I would have thought he's not doing that to be an example to other people who are unenlightened, but to be enlightened and the arahant is a very unusual and rare circumstance. There are not many in the world. Trouble is, everyone else is so conceited, they like to compare themselves to arahants. They say, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Why did he do it? We start going back to a more worldly way of thinking. So for me, I don't have a problem with it. An arahant may do something like that, and that's his choice in what he sees best in that situation. He's an arahant, he's not attached. And who can fathom the mind of an arahant if you're not an arahant? So who are we to judge? I would just keep an open mind with these kind of questions. There's a few others in the sutras as well, I know. But I just keep an open mind, because your practice maybe hasn't reached the point where you can solve it for yourself or understand it fully for yourself. So just wait and see, keep practicing. Before you make a swift judgment, say someone was right or wrong, or believe it, don't believe it, wait and see. And there's many things like that, sometimes the use of psychic powers seems very unbelievable, amazing, how can it be? Some people have problems with past life, rebirth, karma. There's many things that bring up doubts or even total skepticism. So for myself, I started with a lot of doubts. I simply didn't know. People ask me, you're Buddhist, do you believe in rebirth? I said, I don't know, I haven't died yet, I don't know. But I didn't have a problem with it, because as the Buddha said, you don't have to believe every last thing you hear. You just put it on one side and practice. And over time, your level of insight, wisdom, understanding and experience will grow. A lot of these doubts and questions will fade away quite naturally. So, and the other problem is, people ask these questions wanting some teacher to explain, but you maybe not get an explanation for something that you can't possibly understand. You can't understand the mind of an arahant. But the word of the Buddha, I do tend to trust. If you're going to trust something in the world, I would start with the word of the Buddha, more than anyone else. So the Buddha said he died blamelessly. Good enough.
Thank you, Ajahn. One last question.
I'm also asking about the arahants, about an arahant. First thing, there are two questions about arahants. Do you think in this AI era, there will be arahants? There will be arahants coming in this world? And secondly, should we believe, like you said just now, we only believe it, Buddha said that so and so is an arahant. But in this modern world, I also hear some monks saying that another monk is an arahant. Should we believe it as well? I mean, sometimes if truly the monk is an arahant, actually it's for me, I will feel very inspired. Wow, there's an arahant in this world. So this modern era, I'm still able to practice to that. I mean, inspire to that level. So I mean, how do we approach this?
Well, first thing, I assume your first question is not saying, can computers get enlightened? I'm joking.
We can just ask anything from no rule, for
Yeah.
example, you know.
So with technology, AI and everything, there's an advantage, a benefit, and there's a danger. So that's where we have to study, and that's how the Buddha taught. Everything can be useful, but it can also be harmful. And it's certainly not a replacement for the wisdom of the enlightened mind. And that's something we all have to develop. However slowly or quickly, you can't do it through AI. AI can maybe give you some information that would be helpful, answer some questions, but it can't do the insight meditation, purify your mind for you. No one can. Even the Buddha couldn't do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. But we follow the words and the teachings of the Buddha. And then secondly, well, yes, you are correct. We can't really know for sure if someone's an enlightened arahant or not. But like you say, just the thought that there are possibly arahants in the world makes me happy, makes you happy, makes me happy. That's a good starting point. We still have faith in that ideal. Nibbana is possible, human beings can do it, I can do it. If humans can do it, I can do it. And then it makes the practice worthwhile. How long it will take, how hard it will be, I don't know. But it can be done. And we believe that some have done it. But we have to just approach that part with caution, because, say for me, I believe there are arahants in the world, and there have been in recent years, and there are now. But I also believe there are those who have claimed to be arahants and they weren't, either from their own misconceptions and delusions, or even more shameless, they just want to, convince people they're arahants so that they can make money. And that's nothing new. Since the time of the Buddha, he warned that some people will do that. Either their own delusion or just they're shameless and they want to become famous and get power and money and so on. So there are both. But the pure arahants, I believe, do exist. But I also am cautious, because you have to develop your own skills to the point where you could maybe know what the words of an arahant are, what they're pointing to, and whether they're really pure or not. Because that's how the only way you can really know is, can they describe the way they practiced, how they purified their mind. And so really only another arahant could possibly know who is an arahant or not. Because they'll have done it and they'll see some similarities in what that person's done. Having said that, it's not entirely only arahants who can know who's an enlightened Buddha or an arahant. Because remember, who invited the Buddha? Earlier today, the lady chanted it. Who invited the Buddha to teach? Brahma Sahampati. Brahma Sahampati was not an arahant. So occasionally devas with great barami, sometimes they're noble ones, sotapannas, or they're what we call bodhisattva. They have a lot of wisdom, a lot of barami. Maybe they can know with their special barami who's an arahant, even though they're not an arahant. But again, that's a very rare thing, not a common thing, but it can happen. The average person, won't know for sure, but what did the Buddha say? He said, well, you want to know about a teacher, what level their practice is, how correct they are in their teaching, whether it's pure, whether it's correct. Practice what they say, get to know them, spend some time with them, listen to them over time. it will take time. It's not something you can just go on somebody else saying, oh, he's an arahant, and you just believe. That's dangerous. Or even you going one time, wow, arahant. That may be a wonderful moment, you're inspired and have faith, but give it some time as well. So you return to that same person, say, you meet a teacher you believe is an arahant, you return and you hear what they say, put it into practice. If you continue over time and you're never disappointed and they seem very solid and they teach the same things and maybe you get to know their style, because sometimes different teachers have a different style, way of talking, way of teaching. So even arahants can vary, and maybe one person feels more inspired by one arahant than another. That's possible. But you get to know them over time, and then you'll gain confidence. This person always seems to say the right thing and seems to know, and they never take advantage of people, exploit people, they're not greedy, they're not angry, they're not doing the wrong things. Over time, then you'll probably find out who the arahant is, or very close. And the one who's not an arahant, who's just out to fool people or is deluding themselves, over time you'll usually find out as well. They usually crash. In Thailand they call them shooting stars. Go up, become famous, and then down very quickly. And they make a mistake. There's a scandal, money, females, or some problem. It happens. So that's where you have to be a bit careful. There are those arahants who didn't last. And not just arahants, everyone wants to be a sotapanna. If I can't be an arahant, I'll be a sotapanna. Tell all my friends, I'm a sotapanna. And your friends don't know what to say, so for a while you can get away with it. It could be a monk or a nun, or it could be a layperson. It happens. People have convinced themselves they're a sotapanna, and they're with a lot of people who can't really teach them or tell them any different. Maybe it takes a more experienced teacher to teach them, or maybe they lose their way by themselves. They thought they were a sotapanna, but after a while they stray from the path, stop keeping precepts, stop meditating, lose their way. As Ajahn Chah said, he said, over the years, a lot of people have come and declared their sotapannas to me, and a lot of them are now enjoying married life. They've gone backwards. That's the whole point of the noble path. It's getting you to a point where you don't go backwards. You don't go down. That's the bottom line. Is your practice going up or down? Your mind, your quality of your mind, the purity of your mind. Are the defilements increasing or decreasing? And you won't know that day by day, it's too short. But year by year, okay, maybe you can observe that. Are you getting more greedy? More greedy than last year? Are you getting more anxious than last year? Are you losing your temper more often than last year? These are the sort of reflections you can take to kind of review your practice. Obviously, if you're on the noble path, whatever level, sotapanna, arahant, whatever, if the defilements are fading, reducing, disappearing, that's a good sign usually. It means you're going in the right direction. And the same for other people.
I understand that arahants don't reveal or announce that they are arahants. And if I remember correctly, this question was also posed to Ajahn Chah. They asked him if he's an arahant, and I think the answer was not sure.
You're right. On one occasion, Ajahn Chah had great patience dealing with people. He was asked that question over and over again. He must have been very tired of that question. monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, many people would ask him that question or talk to him about that issue. And so his answers did vary a little bit. You know, another one he'd say, I'm not anything. I'm nothing to be, and I'm nothing. I don't have anything, I'm nothing to be. Which you could say is a confirmation he's an arahant. But what he was trying to do, I think, was help them set aside their own doubts. Because he would push it back to the person who's practicing all the time. He'd say, you're sitting there doubting, is he an arahant or not? How's that helping you? That's just you projecting out onto the teacher. He is, he isn't. You're not really looking at your own defilements, seeing what's causing you to say that as your own doubt, your own uncertainty. So he would say things that would help people look back at themselves. And so, you know, sometimes he wouldn't even answer. I know somebody asked that question and he just got up, scoffed at them, walked away and didn't say anything. So like, oh, you can have that. Or when monks were thinking, is he an arahant or not? What level of his attainment does he have? Sometimes they haven't even articulated it as words yet. It's just a thought. And he'd walk up to them and just say, so, what do you reckon? Am I an arahant or not? And they go, I can't speak because I've just been called out. And that was enough. They don't ask again after that. Because if you're a monk and your teacher does that, it's like, you feel embarrassed, you feel ashamed that you let your mind dwell on that thought. So there's all that kind of thing going on. It's not just there's one recorded time where he said not sure. You know, there's quite a few people have asked this about him. And he didn't encourage to think in those terms, because we tend to go backwards when we do that. We start attaching to labels, attaching those labels to people, creating self in ourselves, creating self in others. We're actually not developing much wisdom that way. We're actually cutting off our own wisdom. So he didn't encourage that. And another reason was he has so many students, Sangha, laity, so many. If he started saying, I'm an arahant, and he's Sotapanna, and he's this, and he's that, oh, you'd get so much disharmony. You get jealousy and rivalry and confusion, and some people would be claiming when it's not true. So he just cut all that off, and he wouldn't talk so much in that way. He'd talk about it, get to know your own mind. If you have doubts, look at those doubts, they're a defilement. If you have anxiety, look at the anxiety, that's a defilement, that's something you have to let go of. You keep pushing it back to the person, rather than sort of going into this way of speaking, oh yeah, he's an arahant, he's an arahant. The Buddha could do it, and you know, we don't know, we weren't there when the Buddha was alive, but the Buddha is the Buddha, so he can maybe say, oh, this person is an arahant. But in this day and age, it's probably not a wise way to go, I would say. Better to talk more about the principles of good practice. Is someone following those principles or not?
Thank you, Ajahn. We have now reached to the end of the Q&A sessions.